Yo, welcome to another episode of the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast. I am your host, Neil Horowitz. You can find me on Twitter at NJH287. Hit me up on LinkedIn as well, where I post more content. Visit the website, dsmsports.net, for additional content and episodes. And of course, check out the podcast on whichever of the platforms you prefer. Really awesome show for you guys today. Just a ton of insight from today's guest. I'm going to be joined on the podcast by Matt Gardner. He is the Vice President of Innovation and Digital Strategy for the St. Louis Blues of the NHL. Just a ton of great knowledge from him and great experience. So stick around because you're going to learn a ton and also going to want to take some notes. And I promise not to use the word ton too much. But before we get to my interview with Matt, we have this episode's helpful tool. This episode's helpful tool isn't a brand new one, but a couple that have been around for a little bit that are just worth playing around in if you haven't before. We talk about AR being the next big thing or the current big thing or something that continues to be out there and be utilized by fans, by followers on various platforms. And Snapchat and Instagram both, of course, have their AR tools, among others, but Snapchat is still among the best, and they continue to get a ton of Gen Z people using their lenses, using their AR filters every single day. Just like with Instagram effects, it's a great way to sort of penetrate that dark social, be able to show people's stories with your brand without necessarily having to get a share. So check out the Snapchat and Instagram AR builders. On the Snapchat side, it's called Lens Web Builder. It's in their ads platform, but it has a pretty good amount of templates you can utilize. You don't have to spend much money to use it, if any at all, and you can really start to play around, get the feel for it. It's a lot more user-friendly and very simplified compared to some others. So try it out, play around with it, get to know the AR tools out there a little bit better. Every time you hear Snapchat speak and give stats, they always talk about how often, how much engagement there is with their users, which are, again, largely in the Gen Z demographic, and their AR filters and their lenses. So check out the Snapchat Lens Web Builder. Now on the Instagram side, again, even if you're intimidated by AR, or you're very new to it, or you don't have a creative background, you can look at Spark AR Studio. It's a little more extensive than what Snapchat has, meaning it's a creative, a well-trained creative will be able to do a little more with it. But there are some templates built in as well, and you can watch plenty of YouTube tutorials and get to know it and really do some pretty cool stuff. I see a lot of organizations, teams, leagues, some do a lot with Instagram effects, creating effects for each of various events, for major moments, for major brand campaigns, and others, barely touch it. So, don't be intimidated by AR if you haven't touched it yet. Talk to your creative team if you have creative resources internally, and ultimately try out Spark AR Studio because it's really, once you get to know it, it's a pretty cool tool that allows you to build some cool AR effects for your Instagram and Facebook as well. So give those each a shot. Try out, if you haven't tried out lenses or filters in the past, these tools are worth checking out. So again, it's the Snapchat Lens Web Builder and Spark AR Studio on the Facebook and Instagram side. Just Google them and you'll find more information as well about how to get started. But that's this episode's helpful tools, plural this time. But stick around because you're going to really, really enjoy this conversation with Matt Gardner of the St. Louis Blues. Right back to this episode's opening segment, and I am so psyched for today's guest. I was just telling him that we could probably record any of our conversations. It would make a good podcast interview. Joining the podcast today by Matt Gardner. He is the Vice President of Innovation and Digital Strategy for the St. Louis Blues. Welcome to the podcast today, Matt.
What's up, Neil? How are you?
Really psyched to pick your brain. I'm doing great. Still watching some Stanley Cup playoff hockey. So while it doesn't have the Blues in it still, you guys are not that far removed from winning a cup. So, let other clubs take their turn. But psyched to learn from you today. But before we get into the meat of our discussion, tell us about you, your career path, how you got started in this crazy sports space, working to where you are today, and any tips for folks that want to do what you do.
Sure. I was just thinking about this recently because I graduated from the University of Kansas 20 years ago last month. So I am a 20-year veteran now of the digital industry, which just seems wild and kind of makes me feel like a little bit of a dinosaur. But we'll move past that, and it's been a fantastic journey for me. I started off after graduation working in professional tennis for the ATP World Tour, really in the early days of digital emerging across, globally in tennis. After 4 years there, I worked for the Orlando Magic for 3 seasons. I was actually their very first digital media employee for
Wow.
my full-time position back in 2005. After 3 seasons with the Magic, I spent a couple years on the agency side, focusing on sports and entertainment clients, and really just trying to learn more about the business and shifting a bit of my focus from an editorial standpoint to strategy and understand different things and techniques and areas that should be more of a focus in trying to generate revenue and developing an audience. And now for the last 9.5 years, I've been here in St. Louis with the Blues. My roles have changed a little bit over the years. I started out in director of marketing communications, really just trying to build up a digital department, and did some work in promotions. And the last 3 or 4 years, my focus has been on the digital side of things, but it's also been developing more of an innovation story for the organization.
Yeah, looking forward to talking all about the innovative stuff that you guys have done there with the Blues. And it's pretty cool looking back on your background. In between, you have NBA, you have tennis, now you have hockey. I mean, you're just you got quite the diverse resume there. You're a versatile athlete. I'm glad you're just not a single sport athlete. That's not good for kids anyway.
And I can tell you, growing up, I was a huge baseball fan. And if you were to ask me, I would have been working in baseball. But it's funny how, the path that you end up taking in life and the journey that you go on. I definitely don't regret it for 1 second, but it's always unpredictable.
Yeah, it's interesting too. We could have a whole other conversation on this subject, but it's interesting how there are marketing techniques, technologies, whatever it might be, engagement tactics that certainly are consistent across sports. And there are also things that are very different. But it does translate where you can go from, say, a hockey team to a basketball team, and yes, there's still some ropes to learn, but there's still some principles at play that are consistent across the board. And that may go for marketing and in general as well.
Absolutely. You definitely pick up tricks of the trade that translate, across sports, across regions. And then there's those uniqueness pieces that always come to play in different sports and different markets, and how you relate to fans and how you position yourself. So that's the great part of it. And it's a great part of where technology has taken us, is it's always a new journey, a new adventure. Not even year over year, sometimes month over month, how quickly.
Seriously. I want to dive into, because I think it's interesting that I didn't recall this about you, but going from that more editorial content side, communication side, into this digital technology. And digital is such a catch-all term that covers social, it covers mobile, it covers web, it covers just so many different areas and technology in general. So I guess first off, like, how has that transition gone in your career? How did it help you starting out in that more content side and coming up into this more technology and oversight role across this entire ecosystem? And really, how does that I guess intersect together with content engagement, knowing what fans will gravitate to, and how technology comes into play? And I guess, like, would it have been different had you come from a different background and not on the editorial side?
Sure. I started when I was 16-year-old as a sports writer, and I was just drawn to it by chance. Just kind of lucked out working for my local paper at 16, and I thought for years, finishing out high school and going into college at KU, that I was going to be a sports writer. As I got close to graduating, I decided to pivot a little bit, and instead of going down a kind of a news editorial path and working for a newspaper and becoming a beat writer, I saw a better opportunity of getting on the sports organization side of things. And as the transition was starting to take place of the internet and websites and everything becoming more important for organizations, I went down that path. And I was lucky in that my first role with the ATP, I really had a decision to make. I could continue down more of a PR, media relations style role,
Mhm.
or they were really just starting to emerge into the digital side of things. And I decided to take that digital path. Learning as I went along, I'd never taken any sort of class on HTML or anything else. I mean, me and my colleagues at the time, we were using like HTML for Dummies style books to
Yeah.
learn learning HTML and JavaScript and CSS, and things just kind of took off from there. It led into my opportunity that I had with the Magic, and then after 3 years with the Magic, going all the way back where I was learning a little bit of the business side of digital, but it was heavily editorial focused. From the time I was 16 until the time I left the Magic in 2008, I had worked in that space for over a decade. And I saw that there were a lot of people that understood the editorial side of the role, but there weren't as many in sports that understood the business side. So I took a little bit of a leap of faith. I went and worked for an agency in Orlando that I had done some work with when I was at the Magic. Being in Orlando, they had a lot of the theme park customers. They did work with
Mhm.
me and Universal and SeaWorld, and it gave me a much broader understanding of the needs in professional sports that were really lacking at the time. So my goal all along was to kind of go on this journey of educating myself without actually going back to school, getting paid handsomely to do so, and then get back into sports. And it just so worked out that after a few years of doing that, this opportunity with the Blues came about, and it was the perfect opportunity. It was exactly what I was looking for. We had a guy here already, Chris Pinkert, who was and has always been phenomenal on the editorial side of the business, and it allowed me to focus on the business operations piece of digital and growing a department and finding new sources of revenue and data capture and fan engagement, those things that I really wanted to take the 3 previous years that I had worked so hard on the agency side to learn and find an opportunity to come back into sports and apply those things.
That's a great explanation, and I appreciate going back and kind of understanding how you got to where you are, and it really is cool how it happened organically, even if you never could have planned it. Back when you were a 16-year-old kid thinking about being the beat writer for the Jayhawks or something.
That's right, and I'll tell you how I got a little scared off. I will admit, I went to school with some really impressive writers that were winning awards and everything, and I saw sports guys that I thought, man, this guy is going to have great opportunities. And then all of a sudden he's landing a job as like a high school beat writer in Idaho. And I'm like, that's great. I understand you got to get started somewhere, but in my mind, I had big leagues, I wanted to go to the big time. And I found the best opportunity for me to do that is just to kind of pivot and then go work on the league and team side of things.
Totally. Let's talk. I liked how you kind of started going into there about how the different elements of the Blues kind of interplay with the content perspective. Here's what we're actually putting out on our platforms, whether that is social, mobile, in-game, broadcast, etc. You might have the brand aspect to it. This is what we want to put out there, whether it's voice or imagery or personality, whatever you might want to call it. And then you have the monetization aspects and data capture aspects and other things around personalization and testing and what's working, what's not working. So like, how do all those work together where are you kind of looking out for the platforms and just looking at them as platforms and fan touch points and trying to maximize those and not necessarily worrying about the angle at which the Blues are approaching it and the brand aspect of it and the content aspect of it? Like, how do you all work together as a team to make each other stronger? And kind of what is your focus day to day vis-a-vis what your colleagues are working on?
Yeah, I think two of the key important things there is that the direction you go as a digital department has to be embraced by the entire organization. Mm-hmm. And if you decide to go down one path and your colleagues and your representatives of other departments don't understand where you're going, you're not going to get to the place that you really want to go. So it's really about moving at the right speed for your company. And everyone works a little bit differently. Everyone has different skill sets. You gotta use the skill sets, the resources you have in place and fundamentally figure out what is the path that you're going to take to have the most success at the right time. And it's very easy in this industry to get wide-eyed and want to do everything. To me, I would love to do fewer things and do those things well versus getting way over your head because the newest, coolest thing has come to light.
Mm-hmm.
And also understanding your market too. Like our audience in St. Louis, I could definitely tell when I got here was different than Orlando. And it was different in other markets that I had been in. So you gotta embrace your fans, understand your fans, and move at a path that they're going to be comfortable with. And the organization is going to really be able to brace and have much success based on committing to things at the right time and doing things the right way.
Yeah, I think your point's well taken there. Just alignment across the board, and the more everyone else understands what everyone else is doing and why they're doing it and how they can work together and have that synergy, it certainly goes a long way across the sports organization when you have so many touch points with fans on a daily basis. So how do you look at those? I think, there's an art and a science to it for sure. Like there's a way you make fans feel, and then there's the metrics that come back from how those feelings may or may not be activated, whether that's through purchases or likes or comments or shares or opens or attendance or whatever it might be. So are you balancing those, that the art side and the science? Like what's that pathway for a fan to ultimately win over whatever it is you're looking to win over at the time, whether it's their hearts, their minds, their wallet, their family tradition, or all of the above in some way? So like, is there sort of a path, not necessarily a linear pathway, but a pathway for fans to follow that you're ultimately looking at, or do you just look at it as almost like a scatter plot of different touch points to be leveraged?
Yeah, I think over time your strategies have to evolve, and the way that you position yourselves across your website, your mobile app, your social networks, the way you integrate your partners, the way you position ticket messaging. Those are all things that you've got to be prepared to pivot from time to time. And of course, with us, we went from being a team who was regularly in the playoffs, but never to the finish line, to finally completing the journey and winning a cup. And so, our fan base today in 2021 is much different than it was in 2018. And so as we're thinking about how we're going to, focus our attention, where that attention is going to go, you have to really navigate the waters that you're in. And a lot of those decisions happen on a year-by-year basis. And we're doing a little bit of that now, trying to post-mortem on what just occurred in the season. Obviously, COVID times, it was a very strange, unusual year. And now we're okay, we're going to start getting back to normal. We're going to prepare for 18,000 fans in the building. We're going to get people really hyped up and happy to have hockey back at its highest level again in St. Louis and across the NHL. And so our strategies going into this season, actually, if you look at things year over year, heading into the 18-19 season, we had missed the playoffs by 1 point. After the next season, we had won the Stanley Cup. After the next season, we had lost in the bubble in the season that was disrupted. And after the next season, we played a 56-game season and got swept in the playoffs. And so the last 4 seasons, our approach and our results have been very different. And I think that's how we have to think about things, where we put our focus from a content standpoint. How are we best engaging our fans? What are our fans reacting to? What are the things that are working for them? And then just being able to apply changes on the side. The great thing about our team is we've developed a very flexible approach. And we've tried to do that across the board with everything that we're doing, from the content that we're creating to the partnership deals that we're trying to focus on with our corporate partners, and just making sure we're getting ourselves in a place that we can adjust on the fly as needed to make sure that we're putting the best product out there in front of our fan base.
Yeah, and to your point, it definitely has been, I'm sure, quite a whirlwind of being that playoff contender to being the one that's lifting the cup and having that magic moment in the lives of many of your fans that hopefully some new fans that became fans for life after that season, including we don't need to go into to the Twitter fan that became a fan for life, Tony, Tony X.
Tony
That's a whole
X,
other
yeah.
story. But I kind of wanted to look at too, like when you have a cup season or you have just a track record of success, how much is it looking at growing the collective fan base, wherever that might mean at any level of fandom? They are addressable to us. They are addressable to our partners. They are on one or more of our platforms or touch points, versus also like how much can you pay attention to the maybe individual cohorts? Like, hey, now we have, after our cup season, we have more season ticket holders, or we have more diehards, which is more the emotional aspect of it versus the actual monetary investment side of it. And because I mean, across platforms, you're going to have different fans interacting. The way a season ticket holder interacts on the Blues app might be different from a fan who just got on the Blues app for the first time because they want to play a game or enter the prediction contest. So how much of it is looking at the fan base as a whole and trying to accomplish the goal you have set out for them as a collective, versus this is what we want this fan and this group to experience, how they should experience the Blues on this platform, and what we want, what looks like success for them. So no, it's definitely a loaded question, but I'm good at asking those. But I love to hear how you think about those different potentially cohorts of fans, both from a development, relationship, and activation perspective.
Yeah, I will say, prior to winning the cup, although the franchise had 50 plus seasons and a lot of winning hockey with regularly being in the playoffs, our fan base was very local. In fact, I think looking at some NHL stats and stuff, like our fan base was probably more local than just about any team in the league. The national stage that we went on with winning the cup broadened our fan base, seeing more attention on a global level. Great story, obviously, that we had from being in last place on January 3rd to making an unbelievable run and then winning the cup. A lot of those storylines really captivated a much wider audience for us, and so we definitely wanted to take advantage of that post cup. And we also knew going into the 1920 season that we were going to have a ticket problem. We have capped season tickets for the very first time. We've implemented a wait list for the first time. So we knew filling up Enterprise Center was not going to be a problem. What we needed to do is we needed to expand our fan base beyond the confines of our property here. Mm-hmm. Of course, going through that run, we had social media growth and, had solid growth across, our social channels. Two things that we did: one, to make sure that we're finding an audience outside of those people that, are not able to attend a game at Enterprise Center because there are not tickets available. Is we expanded our bar program called This Bar Bleeds Blue to try to get Blues on TVs and mini TVs in bars as we possibly could, so that again we're finding opportunity to connect with those fans outside of venue. The other piece that we did was we launched a custom built fan engagement platform called Lunatics. Mm-hmm. And the idea with Lunatics is, you see teams all the time that are running contests and enter to wins and polls and trivias and surveys and stuff. And every time that we do that, we ask the same questions over and over. Give me your name, give me your email, give me your phone number. Well, we decided that we wanted to create a single sign-on solution and start driving all of those activities into the same place. So Lunatics was launched in November of 2019. We had a couple of months there before the pandemic to get it off the ground. And then we reopened it up at the start of this season. So, to date, the platform has been active roughly 9 months or so. We have onboarded almost 65,000 fans in that time. And we have, those fans, we validated phone numbers, we validated email address as part of the onboarding process. So we have legitimate leads for all these people and potential, prospective ticket buyers down the road. But we're also picking up information of, where are these fans and what is their birth date, so we can reach out for, happy birthday communications. Who's their favorite player? What's their favorite jersey that we're wearing this year, so that when they opt in to receive communications from us, we're targeting them with the right information based on all of these touch points that we're building on this platform. And so that's really been a big goal for us as we look at this growing fan base that we've had over this cup run. Is how do we make sure that we're gaining the right insights about these individuals, so that we're targeting them with information that is more specific to how they are a Blues fan.
Yeah, I think, first party data is on the tip of the tongue and top of the mind, whatever analogy you want to use for just about any marketer these days, and more so than ever as cookies get eliminated eventually. So you mentioned the Lunatics. What other areas are fans entering into that more direct relationship with you? I mean, yes, ticket sales, secondary ticket sales are maybe a little more possible today than they were years ago. And now that Ticketmaster has some secondary markets, and perhaps blockchain or NFTs are on the way, and ticketing in some capacity. Enter to wins. It's like, what are the best ways to get fans to enter that direct relationship with you? What is that first touch point? If Lunatics might be for the somewhat more avid fan, someone that is a fan now, what other ways are there to get fans in your front door, so to speak? And some of it does start on the periphery with platforms like social media.
Yeah, we try to make the conversation very easy for fans. Enter to wins, for instance, are a very easy way that a lot of fans, hey, I'd love to enter to win tickets to a game. A playoff game obviously was a big one for us, given the fact that we didn't have as many fans in the building. But it's very easy, subtle engagement things that you can also do just to make the fans feel like they have a voice. We had a number of game day activations that we rolled out, from predicting who's going to score the first goal of the game to guessing the final score of the game, predicting the starting lineup, checking in on the platform, just telling us, hey, where are you at? The cool thing is we had a series of things that we would rotate through our social channels to promote. And we made the platform as simple as possible. So once somebody went on there to do one activity, they would end up doing 3 or 4 others. And we would have survey questions that we would just throw on there. We would never promote these questions. They would just be on the platform. So if you get on there to complete an activity or two that you saw promoted on social media, I'm going to answer this question as well. And so we would get thousands of survey responses from questions we never promoted anywhere. That's awesome. Just capturing people while they're on the platform and making it really easy for them to use.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah, I always like to think about and say how I've seen teams just run like random Twitter polls or Instagram story polls, and that information doesn't necessarily go somewhere outside more anecdotally, and the social team maybe looking at it and taking into account. But then there's also just those easy ways where you can ask a fan here and there about their experience with the team. When it doesn't have to be a formal 15-question survey they answer via email or whatever it might be through your SurveyMonkey. That's really cool. I love that. I want to bounce into a little more on the tech side and the innovation side, because first off, to be able to have innovation in your title is super cool. I'm sure it's exciting every day, every month, every year, not knowing that what technology could look like in the near future, let alone the long-term future, and being able to sort of envision what that could look like for fan experience, for fan engagement. So first off, I guess, how do you approach that challenge of trying to stay on the cutting edge of what is latest and greatest in fan engagement, in technology and fan experience? How do you kind of know what's shiny new object versus something that's going to have legs? How do you go about evaluating the potential of something and evaluating success of something? So all this just kind of give you the opportunity to talk about what goes into evaluating and implementing technology today and for the future.
Yeah, it's exciting, and I can't tell you how much I love this part of my role. And really, when we look back in the last 3 or 4 years, we saw as an opportunity as an organization to be more cutting edge and to dive more into emerging technology. And like I mentioned earlier, digital, it takes a full company buy-in of the potential of the path that you can go down, and eliminating some of those silos. We've the old style of a front office for a sports team. It was pretty simple, right? You sold tickets, you sold sponsorship, F&B, retail. You have your marketing group, you have your PR group, you have your community group, and technology has really brought everything together. And it's so fantastic to see how things have meshed together so much more, and those lines between departments have really started to be blurred. So we really went into this looking at, how as an organization can we embrace innovation by focusing on having an understanding of what's out there today, what are we not doing, and then what's coming, so we can be as prepared as possible. Also making sure that we're going to market with something new at the right time and when it's best for our fan base. We learned lessons over the course of time when we rolled out mobile ticketing a couple of years ago. We did so at the same time when we rolled out loaded value being a part of it, and putting season ticket holder discounts that could also be scannable through a Ticketmaster barcode. And great to throw out so many things that innovative, but it's a little overwhelming at times for our fan base and for them to be able to embrace all this technology. So it's we always have to take a little bit of step back and say, what goes first? And let's not try to do everything, but let's take this to market at the right time. And we certainly had our challenges at the start of this pandemic. And like a lot of teams, we realized coming out of this, when we were to welcome fans back, we had to position ourselves a little bit different. And so, we went from being 75% mobile ticketing the start of or before the pandemic to almost right at 99% for this season, introducing mobile ordering for the first time, transitioning our building to being cash free, doing all of those little things that are now quickly becoming the norm, that were just expedited over this process. Whereas you would have seen a lot of teams move this direction, but not as rapidly as what happened. So I love the challenge. I love being able to brace things. I have a ton of phone calls with vendors in the industry. I work a lot in the startup space, do a lot of fun work with companies like Stadia Ventures and Hype Sports Innovation, just to be introduced, see what's out there, see what's the new, the latest, the greatest. Follow along as best I can using, Twitter and LinkedIn, but truly it's networking with people, wanting to show the St. Louis Blues as being an innovative organization, so that when something new comes to market, they're trying to reach and, get something going with an NHL team or something like that. They're like, hey, you should reach out to the St. Louis Blues. That's really what we want to do.
I love that culture, and that's the kind of stuff that makes it exciting, like you said, to get out of bed every morning just about. And I'm not jealous because, but I definitely envy the opportunity you have to be able to be on the cutting edge and take action on it and help usher in the next era of sports business, of sports industry, whatever it might be. And I guess too, like when you are looking at a technology, I think of it in, you can look at it in different sectors. Like there's fan experience, which might be some more the in-venue stuff. There's fan engagements, which can be both in and out of venue. And there's different elements that go into a data elements. So are you looking at where, when you're justifying investment or justifying trying to go into a direction with the technology, this is our ultimate path to what ROI? That doesn't have to be direct monetization, but this is going to give us more data on fans doing this, or this is going to ultimately become something that we can pitch to a sponsor as a sponsored asset or a sponsored activation piece, or this is going to result in better offers and therefore more merch sales, and whatever. Like, how far down that path are you going to say this investment is worth this because of XYZ versus just this has some legs and there's a green pasture here, and we don't know exactly where it might end up, but we know there's something here that's worth exploring.
I always go into it with three boxes that I'm trying to check. The first being, how is this going to improve our fan experience?
Mhm.
And it could be a number of things. It could be digitally through one of our platforms. It could be something in venue. There are a lot of different ways that we can have a very positive touch point with our fan base. The second being, what are we going to learn about those fans? The data capture aspect of it is tremendously important in anything that we're doing. And some areas more than others, we can collect a lot of data, but also make sure it's actionable data and data that we're going to be able to use or have a plan to use in the future. And the third bucket, obviously being a big one, is how are we going to be able to generate revenue, which kind of speaks for itself. Sometimes you're not going to check all three of those buckets, but oftentimes that's the goal, is to make sure that you're doing so. And as we have these conversations, we often know that there are some short-term things that we can address. Other times it could be a longer path, and it's not uncommon for us to have conversations with vendors for 2 to 3 years sometimes before we actually get to the finish line and roll out something. Because again, like I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure you're doing it in the right way for all aspects of what you're trying to accomplish. But to me, I think it's always great to have those conversations and talk to vendors, be honest and transparent. You're going to build better partnerships and overall relationships if you're honest with them of where you are and where it would fit in your tech stack, or where you are in your overall cycle of where it might fit. And if it's not a fit right away, it's something that if you don't think it's overall it's going to be a fit, it's better just to be honest and direct. Or if your timeline is going to be a little longer and it's not something for the upcoming season you're going to be able to accomplish, but maybe in year two it's something to think about. It's good to at least start to apply things the right way and setting expectations for both parties to make sure that you're going to, in the end run, at the end of the day, produce the best product.
Yeah, totally makes sense. And you guys have an opportunity and a platform there, being an NHL team, being the St. Louis Blues, that I basically want to explore this a bit of a model or paradigm shift or paradigm evolution, whatever you want to call it, where it's not just like these enormous legacy providers that you're paying the bill for and that's it. Seems like a lot more, and me being on the startup side for the last few years, there's a more collaborative relationship at times, sometimes in direct investment and direct partnerships at times, where you're working with some of these emerging technology companies that are just getting themselves established. It may even be looking for a test market, and it is more of it's less about here's your bill and here's the technology and that's it, but certainly more of a testing ground, a partnership. And so how does that help? Do the Blues, I guess, are they able to activate those kind of relationships? And is there the opportunity to explore some of these more cutting edge technologies and have the Blues be not a straight testing ground, but be able to have more of a partnership than a transaction when you're working with some of these companies that are learning as they go to some degree as well?
Yeah, I think you have to figure out where exactly you fall in those conversations. And every team, every market is a little bit different. The Blues being a mid-market franchise and one that we're never going to have a massive R&D budget. We have to get creative a little bit about some of our partnerships, and it's worked out very well for us to enter into, say, a pilot style arrangement where we're trying something out for a short period of time, or we're launching something briefly for the playoffs, as we've done on a number of occasions, so that you're seeing how your fan base is going to react to it, what different elements you might be able to introduce, such as then getting a sponsor on it and other things like that. And have success, and ultimately working with a company to build a case study because they want to get into sports, or they need an NHL team under their umbrella, and doing so in a way that's mutually beneficial. If you enter into it with just a this is what I'm trying to accomplish from a Blues standpoint, you're going to have a much tougher time moving forward. You really want to give them a fantastic case study, and also give them a reason to continue to work with you and build you great products and great results. And so it is definitely a two-way streets, and that's kind of how we approach it. And having those conversations, always having somebody in mind, taking that call and just listening to an idea. And even if you can't use it today, you don't know 6 months from now, something might come up and you're like, oh, you know what? I had this conversation with this great company. Let me reach back out to them, see where they're at, and see if we can get something brewing.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of your job description just about is to be out there learning, even if it's not something that you're going to adopt today, tomorrow, or ever, to know what's going on out there, to know how maybe what other industries are using, what other teams and organizations are using. It's a good problem to have so much out there that you got to keep track of it all and do the best you can to keep up.
Yeah, I can tell you the one thing I think, having innovation in your title, don't be afraid to say that you don't know, but embrace the opportunity to go out and learn more about something and see how it can have an impact. It's you're not going to have the answer to every question, but I think part of the journey is educating yourself and coming up with solutions that'll work.
Hell yeah! Although famous last words, Matt, you're going to have like a couple dozen demo request emails or LinkedIn emails by the time you open your LinkedIn after this airs.
Well, I look forward to it.
Just a couple of minutes left here with Matt Gardner, Vice President of Innovation and Digital Strategy with the St. Louis Blues. We can keep going all day, but I do want to squeeze in a couple more quick ones here before we get to this episodes of one-timers. I kind of want to talk about how you look to the other huge platforms out there, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Amazon, whatever it might be, and looking at how the directions that they're going and the human behaviors or user behaviors that they are fostering or building upon or activating. How much do you look to what trends they are kind of activating upon and to build into your strategy? And maybe whether it's building something within the Blues platform, owned platform. So, hey, Instagram has or Twitter has Spaces now and Clubhouse. Should we do live audio within the Blues app, during an event? And so, like, how do you look at those trends and new features and new technologies happening on these platforms that people spend hours and hours on every day to help inform what you're doing on the Blues side?
This is an area that internally we've talked about quite a bit. I will say that, when we look back, 7, 8, 9 years ago, as we're trying to kind of build a presence for the St. Louis Blues on social media and utilizing our digital channels, we were competing against media. We were competing against our local TV affiliates and radio and the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and some national media and our regional sports network for audience. And technology has really shifted things. We're not so much competing against that crowd anymore. The beautiful thing about the tools that everyone has at their disposal now is anyone can be a content creator. Mm-hmm. And you look at just the incredible stuff that is being produced on TikTok and the innovation and the creativity that is out there. A big focus for us moving forward with our Blues presence is how do we humanize the brand experience? How do we make it more relatable to the content that anyone in their kitchen is now able to create and bring that type of a Blues experience to our audience? I think it's so important as we continue to evolve our product year over year to make sure that we're moving along as the industry is and as social channels and emerging media is dictating. And so we're going through a lot of process this off season to really determine what our approach is going to be. And I'm so excited for that because it's a great new challenge for us and a way to present things in a new fashion. Something we won't do overnight, but continue to build and grow and deliver a new, unique process, but doing so in a way that it's not going to upset an older fan base that uses Facebook, for instance, and is used to consuming media with us in a very certain fashion. It's doing so in a way that we're able to relate to different generations of audiences and people that are consuming Blues hockey in a very different way. We got to be very receptive to the fact that Younger generation is not watching a game as much as the older generation. My sons are a little older, and it's funny. I'll watch a full game of something and have a conversation with them later. They will not have watched a single minute of that same game and can tell me exactly what happened because they've consumed highlights through social media. So those are just the things that we need to be. We need to acknowledge that that's out there, and we need to make sure that we're presenting ourselves the right way, regardless of how someone is consuming blues hockey.
Yeah, and not run from it, not try to evade it, not try to keep the old tradition alive for every generation as long as possible, but like lean into and understand that behaviors are going to change, and as technology changes and new platforms arise, and it's an opportunity. It's not a burden. That now, back in the old days, we had only so many touch points with fans. They only came into be able to encounter our brand in a certain number of times per day. Now it can be hundreds, thousands of times per day with every tweet, every TikTok video. And so there's challenges out there for sure, but I like the idea of being able to understand that there are different experiences happening, and that the way one fan experiences the blues is not the way another fan is going to experience the blues.
Yeah, it's exciting, and it's something that you should be able to really embrace and have fun with. And I was having a conversation just earlier, and I said I cringe a little bit when somebody asks, what's your 5-year roadmap? I don't even know what my 5-month roadmap is. As quickly as things evolve, and that's the beauty of working in this industry, and it's just having the ability to change things up and continue to move in a different direction.
Oh, I gotta love it. All right. Before we get to episodes one-timers, instead of doing my lightning round, which I was gonna do, I'm gonna have you pick from this list and give me a minute on one of these things that most floats your boat a little bit. So we have NFTs, we have VR, we have AR, we have sports betting, we have gaming, so like esports and gaming, DDC, direct to consumer, or if there's something on the list that piques your interest, I'll let you pick one. So one of those things from that list, I can say it again if you need, but just give me 60 seconds or so.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with number one on your list, NFTs. Incredible opportunity there. I'm really excited about where this is going. I think right now what you're seeing, there's a lot of inflation out there because it's the new thing, and same thing as the cryptocurrency market. It's kind of all over the place, but it's a brave new world. It's the same thing as you going out today and buying an electric car, right? You're going to pay more today than you will 3 years from now when there's more products out there. NFT, I think, is an area that is going to open up a lot of new avenues for teams. It's weeding through a little bit of the craziness right now to see where things settle. There's tons of companies out there pitching things. I've gotten tons of emails. Not all of these companies will make it to the finish line. There's going to be a few that are really able to move forward with a strong product, and that's really where we want to get to, and making sure that we have a marketplace that is solid and sound for whatever we want to do in this space. It's transferable, allows people to move digital collectibles wherever they go, wherever they see fit. But the opportunities are great. I'm really looking forward to digital collectibles tied in with ticketing. And as we've made the transition over the years from a paper ticket to a mobile ticket, the experience of a collectible really hasn't translated with it. So
right.
When we can deliver those collectibles, let's just say season ticket holders get exclusives, right? That are only tied to them because they have season tickets and there's limited numbers. Season ticket holders very well could go out and sell these collectibles and recoup a little bit of their investment in season tickets. And thus you're going to have higher retention numbers because you've just made their investment that much stronger. Same thing with a fan or 18,000 fans that come to a game and they see a hat trick. You can release an exclusive only to those people, above and beyond others that you can just put out in the market. But tremendous opportunities, across the board in a lot of different ways, and it's going to be exciting to see how that plays out.
Oh man, we can go another hour going down that rabbit. I have so many follow-ups potentially, so we'll have to keep that going another time for sure, Matt. fascinating space to watch, and just to hear you riff on it a little bit. The wheels are turning for sure. The juices are flowing, so that's super cool. To hear you guys are have an eye on it for sure. All right, Matt, we'll have some more fun in our one-timer segment, so get ready. That pass is coming. First episode, shareable stat. We'll be right back with that. Man, did I enjoy picking the brain of Matt Gardner, Vice President of Innovation and Digital Strategy for the St. Louis Blues. Stick around because we're going to have some more fun with Matt in our one-timer segment. You're going to learn some more from him and about him, so don't go anywhere. But before we get to the one-timers, we have this episode's shareable stat. This shareable stat looks at my hometown team, the San Diego Padres. But the reason I bring them up is because if you look at the first almost 3 months of the Major League Baseball season and team Instagram accounts, the Padres has just far surpassed any other team in terms of growth. The average team is around 4% or so, or 5% or so in growth, but the Padres have a 19.6% follower growth so far this season. The next closest team is at 8.4%. So 19.6 followed by just 8.4. That is a heck of a lead. Now, there are many reasons for that. They are among the better teams in baseball, not the best team right now by record as I speak. They have one of the more exciting players in baseball, Fernando Tatis Jr., perhaps the most exciting player in baseball, but there are others out there as well. So how do the Padres far outpace everyone like that? First off, of course, you can say they are a smaller market team and had more room to grow heading into the season compared to some other teams that have maybe maximized growth and are not going to grow quite as quickly year over year, month over month. But the Padres, it's about doing what you can when you're dealt a winning hand. When you have a Fernando Tatis Jr., when you have a winning ball club that hasn't won for a little while. Granted, last year was successful for them as well. But what do the Padres do to really maximize that winning hand? They do a good job of making sure to comment on MLB's account, on ESPN's account when they are being mentioned, when Tatis is being mentioned. Don't talk about engagement. Yes, engage with your fans. Yes, engage in your comments, but also engage in other comments, whether it's influencers talking about you, local or national media. It's a way to get your handle out there more, get more people clicking on your handle, and ultimately giving you the follow when hopefully they check out your account and it's worthwhile. They also do a good job of commenting on their player accounts. When Tatis does something big, they will comment on his stuff too, but not quite as much though. And they do a good job of mentioning and tagging their players in their accounts, which gives more opportunity for players to engage with their content and reshare their content, which ultimately helps them in the feed, in the Discover page, in search results, when people are looking for the Padres or Padres-related content. So don't just sit back and hope that performance and your great content will affect your growth. Do what you can to maximize the rest of what's going on out there. Make sure that the players are posting a lot. If they're not, try to educate them or equip them with content. Engage with their content. Engage with the media's content. And again, we can go through all this again and again, but ultimately it comes down to getting your name out there more and not just focusing on your accounts, but focusing on all the other accounts that can help lead people to your account. So that's a shareable stat. Again, it's a pretty crazy one when I saw the numbers. In around the first 2.5, 3 months of the season, the San Diego Padres Instagram account has grown 19.6%. The next closest team is just 8.4%. Pretty wild. So think about it, ponder it, take action on it. But more importantly, don't go anywhere because we're going to have a ton of fun with Matt Gardner in our one-timers segment. Right back from this episode's shareable stat, and I am joined on the line again by Matt Gardner. He is the Vice President of Innovation and Digital Strategy for the St. Louis Blues. Matt can probably tell I am salivating at this fantastic conversation already. But Matt, are you now lined up and ready for some one-timers?
I am ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's see if you can shoot as good as Tarasenko out there in St. Louis. Number one for you. Tell me your favorite piece of content you guys put out during your time with the ATP.
This isn't a piece of content, but it's something I think that it's incredible to think about. Mm-hmm. I started as an intern between my junior and senior years in college with the ATP, just as a summer internship. At that time, they were updating their website one time a week. And if you think about it, tennis tournaments end on Sundays with finals. They would, put in the results. They would run the rankings. They would generate files, and they were sending those files over to a company in Germany who overnight was updating their website one time a week. So the old atptour.org was getting updated one time a week. Now, fast forward about 2.5 years later, I've joined the tour full time, and scores are coming from the handhelds that the chair umpires have in their hand and being produced on the website in real time. It just showed you how quick
Wow.
technology moved, and it was amazing to see, and it's what really continued to fuel my passion in sports and the intersection where technology comes in.
Man, that's a great illustration of the speed, and now 2 years, like who knows what the 2 years is crazy long now too. But wow, one week is a lot of polling and refreshing, waiting for that thing to refresh. Number two for you, Matt. Tell me, going back to your sports writing days, your most memorable story from writing for the Lawrence Journal World out there in Lawrence, Kansas.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to probably have the most coveted student job, and that was to be able to write sidebar stories for Kansas basketball. My freshman year at KU was actually the 100th anniversary of KU basketball, and so there were a lot of different things that took place and activities and alumni that came back from generations and decades of Kansas basketball, and all of the big players that people knew and loved, beside those guys that were active in the NBA at the time, were back. Some tremendous things. The one that will always stand out for me was Wilt Chamberlain's return to Lawrence after decades of not coming to town. To see his number retired in the rafters, to see him standing at half court, my one and only time to ever see Wilt Chamberlain in person, just a memory I will never forget, and so thankful that I was in Allen Fieldhouse to experience that.
Oh man, that's so cool. I mean, it's like you get to see a living legend right there in front of you. That's fantastic. That's awesome. All right, sticking with your Rock Chalk Jayhawk days there in Allen Fieldhouse. Tell me the best basketball player you saw play live while you were there at KU. So saw him play. So if Wilt Chamberlain doesn't put one in for old time's sake, he doesn't count.
Yeah, that same year, my freshman year, was also Paul Pierce's last year at KU.
Nice.
So I had the opportunity to be sitting half court doing the sidebar for the Journal World that night as well, to watch him blow up on senior night, his junior year, against Oklahoma, comeback win, and to witness his final game at Allen Fieldhouse.
That's super cool. And talk about now, if you want to feel old or age yourself, Paul Pierce going in the Hall of Fame next year.
I know, right? Incredible.
Pretty darn cool to say that you were there at the start before he was a name. That's really super cool. Oh, number four, looking back on the cup winning season, a great year for the St. Louis Blues, of course. When you look back on that now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, what's going to be that lasting memory? What are you going to see when you close your eyes and think about that cup season?
Oh wow, so many things there. I can tell you, when I got to St. Louis in 2012, I had so many people, when they would find out that I worked for the Blues, the first thing they would say is, "I can't wait till we get our parade down Market Street." And it was always till we get our parade. That was the way everyone always said it. We get our parade. So to see that actually play out, and to be a part of the team within the Blues to bring the very first Stanley Cup to St. Louis, and just to see the hundreds of thousands, they've said maybe even a million fans lining Market Street, walking down Market Street in that parade, and seeing those faces are just images of joy that will live with me forever. And, you saw generations of fans out there, kids with their fathers and with their grandfathers who would bring their kids, their father to a game. Just tremendous, and something that, gosh, those memories will live with me forever.
Oh man, just goosebumps hearing you talk about that. That's so great. And the former players too came back in droves. I mean, the St. Louis Blues and the way the alumni stay connected to that city is second to none when it comes to sports organizations. It's super cool to see them just as excited as all the fans too.
Absolutely, it was a celebration all around for sure.
All right, number five for you, Matt. I'm sure you get asked all the time from young aspiring sports biz pros, how do I work in sports? What do I do to work in sports? What's the tip or piece of advice that you like to give to those aspiring sports biz pros?
Yeah, I've been very blessed to be able to do what I love for such a long time. And, growing up, I always wanted to do something in sports. I didn't know at a young age what it was, but I never had aspirations to be a firefighter or a doctor or a lawyer or anything like that. It's always been sports for me. So, when I talk to young students, I always say, like, figure out what it is that you love, that you want to do, and go for it, and work hard at it. Network with people, make connections. Don't be afraid to reach out to somebody who you admire and you see their role and you think, gosh, I would really love to do that. Ask questions and then just see if you can pick their brain. I love reaching out to people, and if there's somebody I want to connect with LinkedIn, I make sure to write a little message when I send that invite, just so they know the reason why I'm trying to connect, and say, I admire the work you do. I've seen it on social media. I've seen some of the things you do. Would love to connect. And so don't be afraid to reach out, ask those questions. Networking is so important. The relationships you build in this industry, everything is so very well connected that I can tell you, over years and years and years, I've reached out to people that maybe I haven't talked to for 7, 10, 15 years at times, and said, hey, can you help me out with something? Or, hey, can you make an introduction?
Yeah.
And those things go so very far.
That's so well put. I mean, that is you and me. So you and I are talking today because of that kind of relationship. I think we messaged each other on Twitter and realized we have a lot of this shared passion, shared interests, and got one thing led to another, and here we are on a podcast a year later or so. It's you gotta love it.
Absolutely.
Number 6 for you, Matt. You touched on this a little bit in the interview. Tell me, like, what are some ways that you just keep up with everything? Is it people following really good curators, just being really online, newsletters? Like, how do you keep up with the latest and greatest in the sports technology space?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of newsletters. There are several that I subscribe to, and it's kind of how I start my day. With Morning Brew and Front Office Sports and Morning Consult, Sports Techie. I usually, as I'm eating my breakfast, drinking my coffee in the morning, I start with those. Typically, I don't have as much time during the day, but in the evenings, I'm checking like LinkedIn and Twitter. Using Pocket to bookmark some articles that maybe I want to go back to later. And above and beyond that, just what you can consume online is just try to have conversations and keep up to date with what's going on, and people making introductions to me, taking those calls, having those conversations, seeing what's out there, evaluating our needs at different levels of the cycle, depending on where a product is or where we want to go. All of those things, I think, combined really help me to be as prepared as I possibly can to know what's out there. And there are so many things that can be really overwhelming, but I think sometimes you just kind of take it step by step and make sure that you're focusing your attention on the right things as much as possible.
Yeah. If you see another organization or another business doing something cool, reach out and find out how they did it or what they're doing and why they're doing it. There's so many opportunities to learn, both proactively and passively as well. All right, we're getting to the end here with Matt Gardner of the St. Louis Blues. But we could seriously go all day, all night with this great conversation. Number 7 for you, Matt. Tell me the one most important thing the NHL should focus on for the next decade. I know it's hard to predict anything 5 years, 2 years, 10 years, but if you were to give Commissioner Bettman some advice, this is what we should do to really make sure that the NHL is stronger than it is today 10 years from now.
Oh gosh, I think the league has taken a tremendous step in the right direction with the media rights deals that they've recently done, and bringing ESPN back into the fold, the relationship they have with Disney, and now the relationship that they've created with Turner Sports, I think is a tremendous step in the right direction of being able to reach the best audience, and also making sure the sport is shifting in the right fashion. For everyone cutting the cord and moving to more of a streaming environment. To me, that's viewership of our sport is key, and viewership is what helps bring people into our buildings and have full buildings and very passionate crowds. And there's a lot of things that go along with that. The road that the league will go down with implementing stronger puck and player tracking technology. Sports betting that was on your list of quick hits earlier is going to have a major impact in years to come. But viewership, I think, is key to making sure that things keep moving in the right direction.
That's a great one to hit on. I'm really excited to see what having both ESPN and Turner, which are both media powerhouses in their own rights, of course, with between Bleacher on the Turner side and how they can bring out personalities, and ESPN, of course, with all their tonnage and a great generation of players coming up now, many of whom are totally packed with personality, like Austin Matthews, and it's a definitely exciting time, and I can't wait to see what TNT, what Turner does, and what ESPN does. It's gonna be exciting next few years.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, time for our food question, Matt, as we get toward the end here. I come out there, visit you in St. Louis, go to a Blues game, of course, but then what's the best meal? We're going to take me the next day. Best meal to get in St. Louis and where to get it?
Oh, it's got to be barbecue. Absolutely has to be barbecue. It's as you have the conversation of what is the best barbecue city in the U.S., St. Louis has to be up in the list. And I grew up outside of Kansas City. Kansas City has great barbecue. You can go to Texas. There's great barbecue. St. Louis is right up there near the top, and so many great places. Pappy's is probably the most well-known. They've got a couple sister restaurants that are tremendous. There's Sugar Fire. There's Salt and Smoke. So many great options. So you come to St. Louis, barbecue absolutely has to be at the top of the list.
Oh, that sounds tremendous. I'm there for it. We'll go to all those places. I'm glad it was barbecue, not like the stereotypical or not stereotypical, but the novelty toasted ravioli. Is that something that native St. Louisans enjoy, or is that just more like a touristy thing?
Toasted ravs are definitely popular. If you grew up in St. Louis, I think you were born with a toasted rav in your mouth for sure. There's the very, very St. Louis things, the toasted ravs, the gooey butter cake, the Provel cheese.
Yeah.
If you grew up here, you live and die by those things, and swear they're the best things out there. So
we'll get some toasted ravioli before the game, and then we'll get the barbecue the next day and really go to town. All right, last one for you, Matt. Tell me, this is kind of a tough one. I'm curious how your answer. Tell me, who is on the St. Louis Blues Mount Rushmore?
Oh wow, so many options, so many fantastic players that have worn the blue notes over the course of their career, and lots of players that are in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I would say for me, growing up a Midwest kid in Kansas, I've always watched Blues hockey. For me, it was, a kid in the 90s, I was watching the Blues, and I was watching some of those great teams that in Colorado that they had. So two staples, I think, for me growing up, Brett Hull, obviously. I don't know that you can have a Blues
had to be
Rushmore without Holy being number one on the list, and Al McGinnis being number two.
Yeah.
So many just amazing career he had, and number three for me is kind of a very sentimental choice, as it would be for everyone connected to this organization. That's Bobby Plager.
Yep.
Not the flashiest name, and we lost Bobby a few months ago. He was Mr. Blue, and he was such a joy to see in our offices. You always had a smile on your face when you saw Bobby.
Yeah.
And so for me, for a lot of people, he has to be on that Mount Rushmore. And then number four for me, to kind of take this in a different level, and I've got to apply this to the Cup run in 2019, but I'm going with Pat Maroon, and I'm going with Patty because the hometown kid comes home to St. Louis. He scores the Game 7 winning goal in double overtime in that series against Dallas, and was such a impact to that team and the success that we have. So I've got to go with Patty Maroon, and he's had success in Tampa. With as playoffs go on, would love to see the guy maybe get ring number 3. So Holy, McGinnis, Plager, and Maroon would be my Mount Rushmore.
I like it. Get the carving started. That's tremendous. It was a tough task, but you knocked it out of the park. I love that.
Thank you.
All right, Matt, now your chance to take over the podcast and tell us your social media all-star to follow. Just tell us who they are, what platform or platforms they're on, and why they're following.
Yeah, I'll highlight one person that I've started following a lot recently, and again, trying to. My mind always circulates around sports, and so I try to reach out a little bit, find some people that maybe are not as connected to the sports industry that are great follows. One of the guys I've been following recently is Duncan Wardle, who is the former head of innovation for Disney. Tremendous. I just from recently following him on LinkedIn and Twitter. He's just has tremendous insight into the process of thinking differently, thinking with creativity, utilizing innovation, finding the right times to be inspired, and really trying to think outside of the box. Every time I see something from him, it's very bright and insightful, and somebody I've really enjoyed following recently.
I like that. Let's check them out for sure. And how about you, Matt? Where we can find you as well as all things St. Louis Blues on digital and social media?
Yeah, me, I'm most active on Twitter and LinkedIn. Those are the two key pieces that I'm at all the time. So at Matt_Gardner, if you want to try to find me on Twitter. I love to connect, love to follow you back, and Blues, we're at St. Louis Blues on mostly all of our handles, and love what we're doing, love what we have ahead of us, and some strategies, some rehiring, some new roles we're going to bring in this summer. It's going to be really exciting, and looking forward to getting back to normal for the 21-22 season.
Heck yeah, I think we all are. But yeah, check out the Blues, what they're doing. I always like to jump in and play around with the latest, whatever new toy or new promotion they have out there, a new initiative. It's really cool to be able to pick your brain today, Matt. And look forward to cheering on the Blues next season with packed arenas.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. Really enjoyed the time and the conversation today.
Thanks so much again to Matt Gardner, Vice President of Innovation and Digital Strategy for the St. Louis Blues. I still love that job title, and I'm jealous of what he gets to do, and really am humbled to be able to see what he does, and all the work he puts into it, of keeping up with the latest and greatest. And the Blues really do a good job of being on the cutting edge, trying new things. You heard about the Blue Lunatics platform. You've seen some of their in-game promotions and prediction contests, and just the Blues are a team to watch. So keep an eye on them, and we're going to continue to watch Matt and learn from him as we go along. But that'll do it for this episode of the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast. Again, thank you for listening. You can find me on LinkedIn, where I post more content. Hit me up on Twitter at NJH287. Find the website dsmsports.net, where you can see more episodes and content. And, of course, check out the podcast and follow, subscribe, share, review, whatever you're supposed to do on any of your favorite podcast platforms. Until next time, this is Neil Horwitz signing off for the Digital and Social Media Sports Podcast.